Today I'm talking about a classic perfume note. I'm talking about Oakmoss today in this video, and this video is taken from my long-form vintage perfume notes video that I aired some time ago. If you're a fan of vintage perfume notes, maybe you should tune in and catch the long-form deep dive video, but today I've got a portion of it here, and the focus note is Oakmoss, which I consider a classic perfume note. Now let's find out the fragrances that I featured in that video under Oakmoss. And let's get started with the list. So we're going with Oakmoss as my number one favorite vintage note, or I would also say my number one, well, it should be my number one vintage note because I consider this to be probably the note that most people want to have back, and it was used quite a bit in fragrances and it's rarely used now. But they are starting to use Oakmoss again. They have figured out chemistry to extract the portions that are not allowed to be used and only use like this tiny little portion of however they do it with chemistry. But there are fragrances that featured Oakmoss before that are amazing. But you know, I consider these 5 fragrances here, fairly modern fragrances, to be great representations of fragrances featuring Oakmoss. First of which is Mousse Illuminee, which was recently featured in a Scent Club kit. Awesome fragrance from the house of Rogue Perfumery. Have you guys tried this one? So we had this in a kit last autumn, but we have some individual bottles left in our Scent Club store. You can take advantage of those if you haven't gotten your nose on this, which I'm assuming you would because I've hyped this one up so much. It's an awesome release. It smells so awesome and green and slightly boozy, but herbal, aromatic, and very mossy. I would also go to the extent and say it's a bit petrichor-like as well, but kind of a damp, earthy forest floor experience. That's super fantastic. There are some notes in there that do come off a bit boozy in there. I think it's the Artemisia, and a lot of folks say it reminds them a little bit of Irish Spring soap. Does that do that for you guys? I guess for me, it doesn't smell like it. It gives me the idea of it more than the smell because I have used Irish Spring soap in the past and the smells are not similar to me, but the ideas might be the same. The second fragrance I'm going to talk to you about in the Oakmoss category is Ylang-49 from the house of Labo. You guys familiar with this one? Definitely one of my all-time favorites from Labo. This is a vintage pre-Estee Lauder bottle. Man, it's so good, guys. This is also called Ylang-49. It's Ylang-Ylang, a tropical floral note that has slight banana-ish fruity, undertones and things like that. But it's used quite a bit in in floral fragrances. This is, for me, it's about the Oakmoss, because that's what I like about this. To me, it's like Oakmossy and also patchouli and very vintage-esque. And, I think there have been a few fragrances discontinued from Labo. I hope this one never does get discontinued because it reminds me a little bit of something that I have here that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. This is a brand called Jean Couturier and it's coriander, which gives you an idea of one of my other vintage notes that I'm going to talk to you about. That's the idea it gives me, but further than that, it also gives me the idea of the Clinique fragrance Aromatics Elixir, which are both chypre style fragrances, and Ylang-49 is a chypre. So I took all that to explain that it was a chypre because it reminds me of both of those fragrances. That's what I like about this one. But when you really focus on the Ylang-Ylang note, you'll experience it. But there's so much Oakmoss and patchouli and it does kind of cover it up, hide it. But once you get past that, you get that kind of tropical floral touches, kind of banana-ish texture of the Ylang-Ylang perfectly there. Such an awesome scent that is. If you haven't tried it and you like those old school style fragrances, please do. But this next one's from the house of Ormonde Jayne. This is Evernia, which means Oakmoss or moss. And this is a modern take on Oakmoss. It's also a little, when you wear it, a bit piney. So if you like those kind of fragrances, try this one because I get that from wearing it. It gives me the like the stems or the base of the pine tree, the wood part, and then also the green part, which is more green and aromatic. So it gives me that kind of an idea. So it's a very woody experience, but the mossiness is quite prominent too, which I'm assuming that's how the part of the oak moss or moss they're using is smelling here. But I think it's a combination of all the other notes. Certainly gives me a frosted, cool, snowed on trees, but fragrant trees you can smell. Very woody, very aromatic, very spicy. Really awesome stuff. Not many people talk about Evernia. It's a really great scent from the house of Ormonde Jayne. Let me know if you're familiar with that. Then we're going to the house of Ex Nihilo. It's French Affair. Now, French Affair, you should have just heard about in another video, a long form deep dive video of Canton Biche fragrances. This is a Canton Biche fragrance. And you know, Ex Nihilo is a brand that I really love, but I don't like their prices. So I try and find deals on their fragrances. Buy them in France, they're cheaper. They're almost like 100-ish cheaper. But this is also a bit old school leaning. This is a lot of woods again. Kind of similar idea to Evernia, but they don't smell alike, if that makes sense. It's dry, it's dusty, dried grassy and woody, and then of course spicy. Then this one, French Affair, has a bit more of an old school vibe in comparison to Evernia, which smells a bit more modern, if that makes sense. But really awesome. This is definitely one of my favorites from the house of Ex Nihilo by perfumer Canton Biche. Let me know if you've tried it. What are your thoughts? What do you guys think of Oakmoss as the #1 vintage note? Do you agree with me? Because 9 out of 10 times people mention how they wish that they would have Oakmoss back in fragrances. And they can't believe that Oakmoss was banned or regulated, if that makes sense. But the next fragrance is from the house of Commodity. It's Moss Plus. So Moss Plus, on the other hand, is a very citrusy green take on moss or oak moss. And they utilize a lot of Petitgrain here. So it's very citrusy, but also bitter. This stuff is so good, guys. If you ever have broken off the leaves of the orange tree or the lemon tree and you've kind of cut it, like broken in half, and saw the little oils spurt out of it when you kind of break it in half, there's oils in there. This reminds me of that, plus the mossiness, the damp, you know, forest floral-like effect. So good. Really, really awesome green. And the Moss Plus for me is the best out of all of them. That's why I'm featuring this one here, because it's super dense and intense, and the greenness really comes alive. You like green fragrances, but a citrusy green and a mossy green rather than, you know, another kind of green like tomato leaves or lily of the valley or something. You got to try that. That's so delicious. I had forgotten about how great that Moss Plus is, but really lovely stuff. Awesome stuff. So let me know your favorite Oakmoss fragrance, whether it's one of the ones I spoke about or another one that you've been a fan of. But also, what do you think of this note? It's not used widely nowadays, but I do enjoy Oakmoss in classic fragrances a lot. I enjoy it. It's one of my favorites. And I also enjoy what amounts they use or put in more modern fragrances. But let me know your thoughts on the fragrances I spoke about today. Let me know about Oakmoss in more classic fragrances. Please like the video and share it. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.